And well, what are we going to hop into? We're going to talk about this museum.
Yes, we are. Yes.
We've got a few comments of people asking, we didn't know this. They didn't know I was approached by a museum.
No, it was a bit hush-hush though. Like, that was, yeah.
That was 2011.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that now if you like.
Oh,
you were a
course.
bit involved at the time.
Yes, I was. Yes.
And that's Game Masters
Masters.
or Games Masters? No,
Game
Game Masters. And I was approached by them to display some of my collection.
Yes.
I wasn't the only collector.
No, you weren't.
And that is, do you remember his name?
Oh, I've just lost it.
I know who it is. It's Pedro.
Pedro, that's it.
Yeah, and Pedro also displayed some of his collection. He's got a insane collection, mainly Nintendo.
Yes.
And so I was in the museum. All my stuff was. I wasn't in there.
Oh, you were for some.
Well, I did. I did make an appearance and talked about some stuff.
A couple of times. Yep.
Yeah. So my Afterburner Deluxe arcade.
Yes. Space Harrier Deluxe arcade.
They were both in there.
Was it Outrun?
No. They had their own Outrun.
They did too.
And then probably a year later, they said, hey, what about you opening up a museum? Imagine that. And at the time, I didn't know what to do in terms of, is that a good idea? Is that a bad idea? And I thought about it. And I think time just got by or time went by.
It did. Yep.
Anyway.
It kind of fizzled out. You stopped kind of thinking about it, putting energy into it. You just weren't 100% sure what you wanted to do yet with obviously the collection and
well, I don't want it to go.
Get. Oh, no, of course not.
This is the problem. I'm a gamer before I'm a collector.
Yes.
Regardless of how big it is and how it looks to everyone else. I am a gamer before, first and foremost.
Yep.
So I don't want them to go for that fact. But later on, 2015, 2016, I got approached again. Do you want to do your own museum? You can curate it. You can do this. You can manage it. We'll help fund things. And I thought, nah, I don't want to do that. I worked very hard, especially in the early part of the 90s, which are now the retro games. They weren't retro then. They were only probably a generation old. And I worked very hard to get those games and the Commodore 64 stuff, the Amiga stuff, and just to let them go into a museum. I know it's good for the public, but I don't think a museum's valid when you're just looking at boxes. That's my thing.
Yeah, it's not like they're in a museum to look at. Essentially, they're not there to be played.
That's
You're
correct.
Just admiring the box art, the
and why can't
PCBs,
you just
whatever may be on display, the prototypes of things.
Exactly.
You can't actually touch them.
No, you can't touch them. So you may as well just get the art, scan it, get an amazing replication of the box art, and then just put have the whole wall as box art. There's really no difference to the public. Yes, you're seeing the real deal, but you can't actually touch it.
Yes.
So that's one thing. The other thing is, consoles, great. Have consoles, let people play old school consoles, like a Genesis or an NES, Saturn.
Commodore 64.
Amazing, right? And give them the real hardware and all that. That's fine.
Yes.
But in terms of displaying like this,
games.
I don't know. I don't know. There are museums all around the world, by the way. Gaming museums. There's a couple in Germany.
Yep.
There's a ton in America. There's a main one in Texas. They've got an amazing museum. Yeah. That's pretty cool. So with this, two things got me to this point.
Yes.
One, Luke had walked past and he's looking at the NES aisle and he's walking past, then goes somewhere else, goes to the, I think it was a Saturn. Yes, it was.
Yes.
He was looking at Saturn, and I had Parodius kind of angled at the front.
Yep.
And he goes, oh, Parodius. He gets Parodius, goes in, plays on the Saturn. I said, you know what? All these spines, he's just missing out.
Yep.
He's missing out on the art, Jess.
Well, he is. He is.
So I said, you know what? I know what I'm going to do. So that room was the retro room. Now it's the Commodore 64 display room. We'll get into that in a minute. I got all the NES games and I stacked them up, I think 3 levels high.
Yes, on the On the countertop.
That's right.
Yes.
And I put about probably 7 across.
Yep. By
3 levels high.
Yep.
And I just put some games. I left them there.
You did.
2 days later, he actually walked in there. And he goes, oh, Lolo.
Yes.
Lolo, you know, Lolo's
Lolo.
Adventures?
Yes.
Lolo. What did I call it? Lolo. And there's 1, 2, and 3. And he didn't get off it all day.
No,
he loves that game. Now, he used to play it back in the day, but he forgot about it.
He did, yes.
So I thought, you know what? I've got to start putting a lot of my games front facing. Now, I knew it was going to take up real estate. That's why these walls are behind, because you need more walls to display games front facing.
Well, you do.
Now, that doesn't mean all the games are front facing. In fact, there's a ton that are not.
That are not, yes.
There's a ton, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
It would be almost... You'd need wall after wall
to be able
crazy, to put this
you know.
collection.
And keep in mind, there's now, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rooms where games are front facing, the hallway.
Yep.
And this is more for Luke to actually walk around the room and say, hey, that cover looks interesting.
I want to play that game. Yeah.
I put him in front of the Commodore 64 and I said, just look at the artwork, because Commodore 64 had some brilliant artwork. And not all the games were great.
Yep.
And he'd be picking game after game. Well, it's not as good as it looks on the cover. And I go, well, that's back in the 80s, that's what you had. But to his surprise, there were a lot of good games.
Oh, he loves Whizball.
Oh, he's always loved Whizball. Yeah. He plays on the Amiga and 64. So that's kind of one of the primary reasons.
Yep.
The second primary reason is you. That's right. So for YouTube, I wanted to have, 1, a good stage.
Yep.
Here we are. 2, I wanted to talk about games and have them behind me. Not spines that you're going, oh, what's that game? I don't want that.
No.
I want it to be, oh yeah, he's got Raiden Silvergun. Oh, not Raiden Silvergun. What am I saying these names for? They just come into my head. I was going to say Raiden and Raiden Silvergun. Yeah. So I'd have Raiden behind me, and then I can just grab it and talk about Raiden. That's very... You know, I like that. I like that. So that's the other reason.
Yes.
And then there's a magnitude of other reasons. It looks better, obviously. That's duh.
Yeah.
You just walk into the room. It's easier for me to pick a game. I'll walk into the room now, and now it's like,
what do
I play? Oh my God! You know, like
what do I play first?
What do I play first? You know, and I just want to concentrate on one game at a time. With the Xbox, they're kind of my favourite Xbox 360 games. So,
well, each section's a bit different how you've set them up. Obviously, box sizes and all that kind of thing, the space of the walls. Some collections won't fill a whole wall, so you've needed to decide what's going to look best with what. For like GameCube, you've got Japanese GameCube, which they're a lot smaller than the GameCube games. So you've had to kind of, it took a bit of think music. Well, here we are in the museum.
Here we are. And, well, private museum.
Private museum,
Yeah, so private, but for YouTube and for the world to see.
Yes.
So, and this took a lot of time.
It did take a lot of time. We had a fair few people coming and going, like a curator.
Yep, we did say that last week. We didn't know if that was, but it was, it was the name. So that curator, and all up there was 4 different people we had. And we learnt a lot. So we'll kind of go through that. So the curator, you explain?
So what the curator did was talk about like the theme that you were looking for, just about the collection and how you wanted to incorporate that into looking into a museum and how the best way to go about it would be.
Yeah. That's kind of their job. There was the other guy who was a collector management.
Yes, he did collections management. So he obviously got to know your collection and why you were collecting, the story behind that, to know what it meant for you.
Yeah, and that's for me. Like, obviously, he works at the museum.
Yes.
It's not someone who works there or anything like that, I wish. So this is the main part. When you walk down the hallway, this is kind of the
first area that you see, that you come that you encounter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just trying to grasp it myself. And that's why we wanted this desk. This was my idea. I wanted a kind of a shop feel, and that's why in Last Game of Show we do our intros in front of this. You know, see, we're behind here. This is what's on today, and then we relax in front of a couple of chairs.
Yep.
And that's what I wanted. I wanted a shop feel because I used to own a shop, and I wanted to bring that feeling back. And they were all fine with that. They said if that's what you want, you know, that they would do that in a museum if they were going for a shop feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because they need to incorporate how you want it to look as well. They can come in and say, well, this is how a museum is and a museum runs, but they also need to incorporate your personality and your needs and wants. Otherwise, it's not going to be what you would like.
Okay, so this is the right side of the counter, and we've got NES, we've got Famicom, so the Japanese NES, and we've got Game Boy behind me. So Game Boy DS, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and above we've got
the lovely Amiibos. And then, as you can see, you've pretty much got the whole collection of those.
There's some I'm missing, but
a few.
I've kind of forgotten about Amiibo.
Yeah, because it's just going to go rampant.
Yeah.
Then you've got 3DS on the end and Super Famicom.
Yeah, the Super Famicom wall.
The masterful Super Famicom.
It is definitely the most impressive. Even when one of the museum guys come back to look at the finished product, and he was like blown away. He said, "Oh, the art," and I said, "Oh, this is the Japanese Super Nintendo, and that's amazing." And where Jess is at the moment, this is not finished. There's going to be kind of like art on top of this and on the side.
Yep.
But this is all the Super NES.
Yep.
Games, and on this side will be the PAL, Super Nintendo, and all that. So that's kind of got a lower stance, but still easy to read. There's plenty of lighting here. And then on the right of me, we've got the consoles. The design of this room, obviously this is the Nintendo space. So this whole, the room here is
obviously
the Nintendo
the red
space.
Gives it away as well.
Yeah, the red.
For that reason.
So one of the museum guys, I don't know if it was a curator, he actually wanted me to paint this a dark grey.
Yes. Yes.
And he said you can maybe paint the rest red, but the back wall you should paint dark grey to let the colours pop. But
that kind of conflicted. If you look at the NES games, a lot of them have dark cover backgrounds. Whilst the colour will stick out, then there was that, will those games get lost?
That's right.
So
there was a kind of, you know, we didn't really know what to do, but he said, look, paint it red. It should be fine, but you might want to change it later on. But I'm actually quite happy with it, and they're pretty tight, so you don't see much red. That's pretty good. So obviously this is the other side of NES.
Yes.
And here we have, sound like I'm on a game show. Here we have just like
more peripheral,
peripherals,
special bits.
Game & Watch. I hardly got any Game & Watch stuff, but I plan to get more. Just some loose Nintendo magazines, some kind of new package stuff up there. As I said, I don't want to go into this because not all of it's up there. There's still more to put up. So we're currently finishing off the N64 wall, the Japanese one.
And then we've got...
Sorry, Jess.
That's okay.
Continue.
The N64 and the GameCube.
Yes, and the GameCube Japanese.
And I thought you just said...
No, I said N64 and then...
We're finishing off.
So, yeah, that's awesome. And again, N64 boxes, peripherals, all that wonderful
pads,
stuff.
All the different colour N64s.
So another thing that's really interesting, the exhibit designer did not like these clear covers. But he said if we had anything in the museum with these clear covers, we would either take it out or get a special bag or case that is airtight sealed. Because this is clearly not airtight because it's just, you know, two flaps at the end, he said what it can do is it can actually breed mildew, moisture.
Yes, it can hold the moisture in.
Yeah. Mold.
Yep.
On the cardboard edges. He goes, I suggest
that
you don't have these in plastic covers and you leave them breathe. Because if moisture overnight gets trapped inside here, it will actually, it'll be hard to get out.
It will, because it can't breathe.
Yeah.
Even though it is only two flaps, as you said, it still is tight enough for the moisture to stay in there and not be able to evaporate.
That's what I'm trying to say. So, and so we've actually taken some out and we're kind of doing our own little test. Not that I doubt him. He would have seen a long time. And this guy was in his late 60s, so And he's been working in the museum, what, 17 or 18 he was?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so
He
he's
just
been there
loves
for
museums.
forever. Well, not to make him sound old, but yeah, so that's very interesting. I wonder how that's going to change people's opinions of these protective covers. I mean, look, sure we want to protect them, and if they're in the right environment, you'll be fine. But if the temperature drops overnight to you know, where it's a little bit damp in the air.
Especially in these winter times, especially down here.
Yeah. So that's the next thing I had to do. I had to install something in the roof to actually keep this room at a certain temperature. And that's going to be running on solar now, so it pretty much be...
It's all regulated and don't need to do anything now.
Don't need to do anything, don't need to pay anything, but it costs a lot up front to put this in. I've got it in the arcade room in this room, and that's it. So hopefully it pays off. I'm sure it will, but we've got to keep... Look at this, it's pristine, this game, so we want to keep them pristine. And he did say, he goes, look, you know, to have them in a museum costs a lot of money a year to actually keep this stuff in good
Well, the
nick.
maintenance for everything, and like they dust it all the time, and they've got cleaners going all the time.
He said maintenance alone is around $600,000 a year. This is a big...
A year?
Yeah, this is a big museum. It's fairly sizable.
Yes.
They do electronics and all sorts of
levels,
things. Yeah, but I was like, okay. 600, like, so that's crazy. Anyway, we've been in here too long. This is not a room tour.
No.
Let's go to Xbox.
So on this side, obviously the wall isn't big enough to hold every collection. So you've just chosen your favourites of the original Xbox and then your Xbox One.
That's right.
Down the bottom, and then it flows around like the excess onto the back wall here. So the original Xbox are just over there. And then on your side, you've got...
Xbox 360. This whole wall is Xbox 360. It's in a way that I like it. The rows will mean something like Call of Duty, and then it turns into other first-person shooters. Forza, and then they're all car games. All the Lego games, Sega row, Capcom row. I don't know why Capcom's so far down at the bottom, but that's just how it worked out. I've got James Bond up there. There's a couple of games missing because we were playing Quantum of Solace a couple of nights ago. So that's it. They're kind of my favourite games, and obviously, as Jess said, the rest of the Xbox 360 stuff are there. There's a lot of Xbox 360 that I'm sorting through now that I've got to put up, and that should be full. And that's it. And we've kind of got a shelf there, which we don't need. Things are front-facing, but that's for the future.
Yes, it is.
We've got to protect this for the future.
That's what they said as well. How are you going to protect yourself, as you've just said, from future games coming into the house? You've got to take that into consideration, that you're going to need room in the future.
And make sure I've got enough room.
Future-proof.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's it. So this is the Xbox area. Obviously, I've got a counter here with the consoles. Some nice displays here. This probably won't stay like this. Is just temporary for now. And I've got 2 lots of peripherals and consoles and stuff in this, which is it's quite a lot here.
Yes.
And it's the same on the other side, which is PlayStation. Let's have a look now. All right, so we are at the PlayStation section. That's opposite Xbox, and Nintendo's on our left, just so you've got your bearings. And we have PlayStation 3. There's heaps to still go up. We've got the original PlayStation 1 starting. Most of them are Japanese. The English stuff's not up there yet. I don't know why. I've started to put the long boxes up.
Yes.
But I've kind of ran out of time because I've got so much else to do. And at the back wall is PlayStation 2 American. There'll be PlayStation 2 Japanese. There's so much of that.
There is.
PlayStation 4, you can see, I haven't got the biggest collection. More PlayStation 2 Japanese. On the other side, there's PlayStation 2 Australian.
PAL.
PAL.
Yeah, Australian. Yep.
And on your side, Jess?
We've got the Japanese PS3 and the Japanese
PS2.
Yes, and those ones again are all your favourites.
Yep.
Just like the Xbox side doesn't have the room, the overflows everywhere else. It's fantastic. The art's great.
I love it.
They've got a lot of the holographic cases. That's what I love.
There's some like that.
With the Japanese.
Still at the top, I'm still working out what to put up there for PlayStation 3. But see, just now looking at it, I could go a bit of Lost Planet right now. Yeah. I could just go and play it right now. And yeah, so that's the PlayStation section. Again, we've got the counter at the front, consoles.
These to house, obviously, all the limited edition stuff, the peripherals, console boxes.
Yep. So I've got a bit of Metal Gear theme going on here. A bit of Vita stuff, the limited edition console.
In the back columns, your Vita.
I've got...
said that.
Yeah, Vita's like, that's small, that
Gran
collection.
Turismo corner.
Yeah, so and keep in mind, this is not finished. We're just showing you this is where we're at the moment, and then on the weekends I might put an hour here and there to finish it off.
The majority of
no
it's
rush.
Yeah, majority of it's done. The
Majority's
hard part's done.
That's right. We want to take our time to make sure it's actually done properly. So that's it. Then we've got the hallway, but before we look at the hallway, we might go into the room opposite this wall, which is the computer room. Well, here we are in the Commodore 64. I shouldn't say that, should I? Commodore 64. And
oh no,
so biased.
It is. You've got a lot of other stuff like the beautiful Amiga. You've got PC. You've got 3 massive rows to fill thousands and thousands of PC games.
Yeah. So this is still getting set up.
Yes.
This room, and as you can imagine, there's going to be a lot of games in here. And I call it the 64 room because, let's face it, that's kind of one of my favourite computers, next to the Amiga, of course. But 64 has the typical art that I love. I'm not saying the Amiga is not as good. Psygnosis.
Oh, Psygnosis, my favourite.
Monkey Island, all those covers are fantastic. But because of Commodore 64, it's just got that typical classic art. And it's got this whole wall, and it'll have stuff in the shelves because there's more than that I've got. So this room's still getting set up. This is going to house like easy, 12 to 15,000 games.
Yes.
Just in this room. Keep in mind, a lot of them are single cassettes that are on Spectrum, and you can put so much in there. You can
so many.
5, 6, 7,000.
Tiers upon tiers.
It's going to be incredible.
There's plenty of room for it to grow as well.
So no more looking at this room because I've got the magazines here. I better mention that.
Yes.
Magazines here. I've got some knickknacks there, but I don't want to say too much because when we do a room tour, then we'll talk
In depth.
Over the road of this hallway, let's go into the Mega Drive room. So we're in the Mega Drive room. That's what I said before, the Mega Drive room, but I meant Sega room. It's technically a Sega room. Well, it's a bit of both. We'll talk about that in a minute. As you can see, we've got counters here, all the nice, wonderful stuff, Mega Drive and Saturn and Master System, and we've got the Dreamcast. Sorry, Dreamcast. And we've got the boxes behind us. And again, there's a lot of boxes happening here. Saturn, Dreamcast games, Genesis on that wall, and yes, my favourite console of all time, the Mega Drive, and the Japanese one of that.
Yes, and on this wall to my right, we have my favourite retro console, the Sega Master System, which is almost the full collection too.
And I will add Mark III as
Yes,
well.
and Mark III, can't forget Mark III.
So, still got a few more games to put up. I'm just replacing cases because some of them are cracked, and that will be the full set of Master System games. And I'm only missing a few for Mark III, so I'm just going to get them in due course. And that's it, yes?
Well, can I just add, I had to put my games that I grew up with, so Double Dragon and RC Grand Prix are up there.
They're actually Jess's games that she gave me to my collection. Why didn't I have them in the first place? That was weird. That was a long time ago.
Yes,
so
it was.
That's fair enough. So that's it. That's the Sega part. Again, when we do a room tour, I'll tell you all the ins and outs.
More in depth.
On this side of the room, behind the camera, we are going to look at, well, one of my favourite things of all time, arcades. All right, so this is it. This is the arcade board area. Now, I've got a lot more arcade boards than this, but these are the ones I really love. A lot of the other ones, that's a whole nother story. They're for spare parts. They either don't work or don't really want them.
Yep.
And I'm going through manuals at the moment, the Ferrari 355 and Sega Rally Enduro Racer. So as you can see, I've got a bit of a mixture at the back, Capcom, Taito. There's a lot of Capcom, Konami's at the bottom.
Yeah, at the bottom, and we've got Sega at the front here, which aren't all finished.
Yep.
You're in the process.
We're in the process, and we're going to do a whole segment on how we made these boxes, Jess, because we have got a ton of questions. How did you get those boxes?
Yes, we do, absolutely.
Yeah. And now, if you can see here, look at this. 2 Net City cabinets and a Neo Geo MVS cabinet. It's incredible. And, well, speaking of Neo Geo...
The AES, Neo CD, and the MVS, and you can't forget the Neo Geo Pocket.
The Neo Geo Pocket. It's not a bad little handheld, the Neo Pocket. So that's it. And again, we've got a bit of a sign up there. And we've got another one here. Look at this. It just come in. So we might hang that one, we're not sure. But obviously that's for the console Neo Geo AES. And that's it. That's it for this room. And the only one left now, we could show the arcade room, but we might We might actually film there next week.
We might, actually.
Okay, we might actually film in there next
It's a good
week.
idea.
Have a bit of a backdrop because of beautiful colours in there.
It is.
Let's go into the hallway. Well, here we have the entrance to the whole games library, Jess.
It is.
So just behind the camera, you enter those doors and you're greeted with this. This is the hallway, and obviously to where we sit, we've moved the chairs out of the way. So Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox. Obviously, that's the Sega room with the Neo Geo stuff, and Jess.
The computer room.
Computer room, good.
Not Commodore 64.
So this is what we're working on at the moment. We're putting up all the Atari 2600, 5200, 7800, Jag, and all that kind of stuff. Lynx, 3DO.
Intellivision.
And on this side I have everything PC Engine. Pretty much here, again, it's getting put up, and Super Graphics, can't forget that. And X68000, yes.
Woo.
And here I've got a bit of a display of PC Engine. Not too much yet. The room tour. If you're wondering where MSX is, that's with the computers. I'm juggling that around to see where it's going to fit.
Because you tried to fit it out here, and then it kind of almost it fits in there, I think.
Yeah, it should be here because the Japanese factor. But MSX was also sold all in Europe and I think even in America and all that. So that's it. This is the room.
You've also got your vinyl.
Oh yeah, of course, vinyl up on the wall. I don't want to say too much.
Okay.
We will leave it a massive room tour. It's going to be like the biggest room tour ever.
It will.
But once it's finished, so I don't want to rush out. That's it. We're running out of time. We've gone way over time today. We must mention as well, we did kind of brush over this. There's probably 100 things we've forgotten because seriously,
absolutely.
This is a making of 8 months roughly.
Yes.
The shelves.
Yes, the shelving.
So the shelving that the NES are on and the Xbox, the PlayStation, the Mega Drive and all that computer stuff, the 64 Amiga, how I did the shelves was actually just basically timber that was cut for me.
It was, yep, pre-cut.
Pre-cut, and then I had to actually put a notch in it, a little channel, like a triangle, like a V.
Yes.
And the games sit on that V and they sit back on a slight angle. That's good for lighting so we don't get reflection.
And also so they don't fall off.
Yes, that's true. Well, that's what I'm about to say now. With the Nintendo, they're not in a V channel. The shells were cut at the back on a slight angle, so when I screwed them to the wall, they're actually sitting on an angle like that, and they flop back. So I hope that makes it easy. And this took us a long time. Sorry, Jess.
It did. Sorry, I was just going to point out the colour of the shelves. They did start off white. And
very good, yes.
The museum people, the curator, the exhibitor designer said, if you're going for such bright walls, maybe the games are going to get lost on a white shelf because they were originally white and the games just didn't seem to stand out enough.
Yeah.
So yourself and the exhibit designer came up with, in not having the museum walls the dark colour they suggested, have them black, and that was just a fantastic idea.
Yeah. And they can't be glossy. You have to basically take off everything that's too bright so you can concentrate on.
Took you a while to find the right colour too, the matte paint too.
It did.
Yep.
There was so much research. I mean, we can't, in a space of, 25 minutes, half an hour, we can't just tell you, it was 8 months worth of planning and, half of it went over my head. But the key is that roof. It makes a whole room, you just look, oh my goodness.
It's beautiful.
Like when you're here, it's so overwhelming even for me, and I've had this collection for a long time now, so I'm not, the overwhelming side of it's gone, but it's been like this for some time and I'm still overwhelmed. So like 5 months I've had it like this. It's a great sign. Thank you for tuning in. Next week we'll go in the arcade room and we'll have heaps to talk about, I'm sure. Until next time, bye for now.
See ya.